In this practical step-by-step video tutorial, I am going to teach you how to build and deploy this modern, responsive, beautiful e-commerce dashboard using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, the JavaScript is going to be a little bit, which is going to be at the end of the video. So the most part of this whole tutorial is going to be HTML and CSS. I'm going to teach you how to design everything that you see on this website. And at the end, we're actually going to go ahead and deploy this website and make it available on the internet. As you can see, we have a dark theme for the website as well. And also, we are going to make sure this is completely responsive. And that means we are going to make sure this website looks good on mobile phones, tablets, desktops, and every device. So let me quickly walk you through what we have here. We have our sidebar on the left side here, as you can see, with some cool hover effects. We have our top bar, which is the Navbar. We have these cool hover effects for the cards, and these tiles that you have here for the cards are going to actually be built by us. Okay, I'm going to teach you how to have these gradients and all that. There's not an image, there's actually something that we are going to build from scratch, okay, using HTML and CSS. And we have our chart here as well, which is going to be at the end of the video, which will take probably 2 minutes or even less to have these two charts using JavaScript. And we have our table here for the top selling products. We have, our upcoming events and all that. Okay, so this is just beautiful, guys. If you are struggling with building websites from scratch using HTML and CSS, then this is the perfect tutorial for you. And I actually have a course coming up, which is the 0 to Hero HTML and CSS course, which I'll walk you through literally everything you need to know when it comes to building websites with HTML and CSS. I'll teach you from literally 0 to hero. Okay, so this is the project that we are going to work on. And now let me actually go ahead and show you how this is going to look on mobile and tablet devices. So on a mobile device, this is what we have, looking beautiful. We have our charts, that's our bar charts. We have our table here looking stunning. We have our pie charts, our upcoming events and all that. Okay, and our sidebar is actually going to come from the left, as you can see, which looks amazing. And of course, this is a dark theme, and this is how it is going to look on light theme as well. And this looks beautiful, guys. So this is how the website looks on mobile phones. Now I'm going to show you how this is actually going to look on tablets as well. And this is how the website looks on tablets, looking stunning, guys. So you are going to learn everything you need to know when it comes to building websites like this. And of course, as I said, I'm working on a course that's going to walk you through everything, literally everything you need to know to building beautiful and stunning websites like this using only HTML and CSS. All right, now let's get into the project. Now we're actually going to deploy this right after we build it. So let's go ahead and buy our hosting and claim a free domain name and SSL. And right after, we'll go ahead and actually build the project. And once we are done with the project, we'll go ahead and deploy the project on the domain that we claim. So let's go ahead and claim our domain and purchase our hosting. Let's go ahead and set up our hosting and domain name. And having used or having worked with many hosting providers, the one that I always recommend for everyone is Hostinger. Now in the description of this video, you are going to find a link that's probably the first link that's going to bring you to this page. And that's an affiliate link that's going to give you the best deal for your hosting purchase. Okay, so go ahead and then click that link. That's going to bring you to this page. And if you visit this page and the design is a little different, that's because it changes from time to time, right? So there's Hostinger. Let's go ahead and then check out some of the hosting web hosting packages that they have. And right here is their premium shared hosting. Okay, so for only $2.80 per month, you are going to have, or you are going to be able to host 100 websites. They give you 100 gigabytes of SSD storage, as you can see here, free weekly backups, they give you free domain name. How cool is that? For most of the hosting providers, you actually buy the domain name separately. Okay, here they give you a free domain name and a free email as well. So they give you a bunch of other stuff that are very cool and very helpful as well. Right, so this is a perfect deal for me. I'm going to go ahead and then click add to carts, and as I said, make sure you use the link in the description to get the best deal on Hostinga. All right, so this is very affordable, so I'm going to go ahead and then use the 48 months. Okay, and that's going to give me the best deal. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then enter my email. Right, so that's my email. I'm going to use PayPal. As you can see, my total is $133. Okay, now I have a coupon for you. Okay, and this is the best coupon on Hostinga. Go ahead and enter the coupon code EGATOR. Okay, this right here, enter that and apply and see what you get. You get 10% discount. So that is a very cool deal, and this is a very reliable hosting. That is why I went ahead and then got you this very important deal. All right, so we are going to go ahead and submit our secure payment. All right, so after the payment, make sure you check out your email to finish up everything, confirm your email and all that. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and then log in. So right here, I just logged in, and I'm going to go ahead. As I said, they give you a free domain name, so you can go ahead and then claim the domain. Okay, which is really cool. On most platforms or with most hosting providers, you actually have to buy the domain name separately, which will cost you probably $10 or more. Right, so the domain name I'm going to buy is Dami EGATOR, and I'm going to use the .com. Okay, so let me quickly check if that's actually available, and it is. Okay, so let's go ahead. As you can see here, that would cost me $14, but here they are giving it for me. They're giving it to me for free, which is really cool. Let's go ahead and then claim this domain name. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but they give us a free SSL as well, so let's go ahead and install that. Yep, and that's installing, and that's going to make sure every traffic on the website is secure. All right, so now let's proceed to work on the project. So go ahead and create a folder wherever you want on your computer. I have mine here in the 2025 folder, and the folder that I just created is called dashboard. Okay, this is my first project in 2025, and so yeah. By the way, I'm working on a full course for people struggling to build websites using HTML and CSS. So if you are new to web development, or you have any struggle building websites from scratch using HTML and CSS, I will have a link in the description for my newsletter. Okay, so go ahead, sign up for my newsletter, and I won't spam you or anything like that. I'll only let you know when the course is ready. Okay, so go ahead, use the link in the description. It's free, of course. You can sign up for my newsletter, and I'll let you know when the 0 to Hero HTML and CSS course, I'll let you know when it's ready. All right, so let's proceed. And I'm going to open this dashboard folder. I'm going to open that in VS Code. All right, so we have a clean slate here. Let's go ahead and create the files that we need. Of course, we need an HTML file, and of course, this should be called index.html. Okay, we need a CSS file as well, so I'm going to call that style.css. And lastly, we need a JavaScript file. Okay, so those are the three files we need for this entire project. Now we will be using some assets, some images basically. So let's go ahead and create a folder for those, and I will go ahead and actually bring these images in. Okay, so I'll copy, drag and drop. All right, so these are the images we will be using in the project. Perfect. Of course, let's start with the HTML. That's the markup. And if you are using VS Code, there's this extension or plugin that comes pre-installed in VS Code called Emmet. And with that, you can just do exclamation and then tab in any HTML file, and you are going to get this boilerplate. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a title, and I'm going to say modern e-commerce dashboard design using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So that's my title. Let's go ahead and link our style sheet or our CSS file. So I'll do link, and that's the style.css file. Okay, by the way, for the 0 to hero course that I'll be creating, I won't be moving this fast. I will explain literally everything you need to know when it comes to building a website using only HTML and CSS. So of course I won't be moving this fast on that course, but there's a tutorial that I just want us to build this beautiful dashboard. Okay, so for this we will be moving fast, but for the course, that's for the 0 to hero HTML and CSS course, I won't be moving as fast. All right, I'll leave this commented. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually have a comment here. I'll say custom CSS. Now let's go into the body, and of course this is where all the work is going to be done. And if you take a good look at the finished project, you can see we have two sides of the website. Okay, we have two parts. Basically, I splitted the page into two. We have the sidebar, which is this side, and then the rest of the page is in the main tag. Okay, we are going to put that in a main tag. I hope that makes sense. All right, although this side looks small, so you wouldn't really understand how I splitted them into only two parts, but it's just for alignment. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually put this into practice. Okay, so we'll have a sidebar. I'll put this inside an aside tag. This is an HTML5 semantic tag, and I'm actually going to give it a class of sidebar. Now I'm able to do this shortcut because I have Emmet installed, right? It comes by default when you install VS Code. So in here in the sidebar or in the aside tag, we are going to have our logo. And so let's have an anchor tag here. And on click of this link, I want to refresh the page basically. So this same file is what we are going to put in the href. Now in here, we are going to have an image, and that image is in the assets folder. Of course, you can go ahead and give this an alt, whatever alt you think make more sense. And in here, we are going to have an h3 as a sibling to this image tag. And this h3 is just going to say shop. Okay, but if you take a look at the finished project, you can see that the O in the shop has a different color. To achieve this, I'll wrap a span, basically a different tag around the O inside of the shop text. I hope that makes sense. All right, so we have that. Now to see what we have so far, you can go ahead. I'm going to undo this. To see what we have, you can go ahead and click this go live. If you don't see go live here, that's because you don't have this extension installed. That is the live server extension. So just go ahead, search live server, and right after installation, you may have to restart your VS Code. And right after you come to your HTML file, you can go ahead and click this go live. Okay, so basically this is going to open the project, that's the HTML file inside of your default browser, and this will basically make sure we don't come back to refresh the page. Okay, whenever we make changes in the file and then we save, automatically the page will refresh by itself. Of course, I can show you this. I will just add something here, refresh or save, sorry, and then this will refresh by itself. Okay, you add anything, you save, and when you come back, you can see the page has refreshed by itself. All right, so let's move on. And a sibling of this logo is going to actually, let me go ahead and give this anchor tag a class of sidebar __ logo. Okay, right, now let's go ahead, and a sibling of this anchor tag is going to be a menu, and I'm going to give this a class of sidebar __ top. And here is where we are going to have our links for the sidebar. So the first one, of course, for now, I'm not going to give it any href. I'll just leave it empty. But for the first one, there's going to be a dashboard link, okay? And if you pay attention to the finished project, you can see we have some icons, right? And to have icons on your website, what I mostly use is Icon Scout. So go to iconscout.com and go to icons right here. We are going to use unicorns or uni icons, whatever it's called, and scroll down until you see this CDN link. Okay, so we are going to copy this CDN link and make sure it is on Lion, which is the free version. So I'll just copy that and come back to my project, and right after the title and before the CSS link, I'm going to paste the CDN for Icon Scout. Okay, so I'll just duplicate this comment, push one up, and then call this Icon Scout CDN. Perfect. All right, so with that, we can actually use icons from this, CDN. Okay, so I'll just search for dashboard. Perfect. So I have an icon here that makes sense or that relates to dashboard. So I'll just copy that and then paste it in my anchor tag here. And a sibling of this icon is going to be an H5, and this will just say dashboard. Perfect. All right, so if we save this, of course, and then come back, you can see we have our icon and then we have our dashboard text. Beautiful. So I'm just going to highlight this and then duplicate it a few times using Shift Alt and then the down arrow to duplicate it about 4 or 5 times, just so we have the rest of the links inside of the sidebar. The next link is orders. Okay, so you can go ahead and search for something that makes sense when it comes to orders right here on Icon Scout. So you can search orders and get something that makes sense. Let's see what we used here. Okay, so I'll just copy this for orders. Okay, come back and this icon will be replaced with that. The next is products. I'll just come back, search for products. Come on. And in the Zero to Hero HTML and CSS course, I'm actually going to show you multiple ways of getting icons. Okay, Icon Scout doesn't really have so many icons, but we are just going to make it work. All right, so I'll just search tag to get something that relates to what I have here. So for products, I think a tag is actually not bad for the icon. The next we have customers. So for customers, you can just search a user or users, right? This is good. So I'll just copy this and then paste it here. Oh, come on. I did Control C instead of Control V. Perfect. The next we have analytics. And so you can come back here, analytics, copy something that makes sense. What did I use here? Yeah, perfect. Copy that and then paste that for analytics. And then we have messages. Come on, messages. So you can come back, messages, and then copy this, come back and then paste it. And I think we have one more, and that is actually, that's it. Okay, that's it for now. All right, so that is it for the sidebar top, and I'm actually going to have another menu called sidebar bottom. If you take a good look at the finished project, you can see that we have some more here, right? So I'll call that sidebar bottom, and I think I'll just duplicate the menu here. That's the sidebar top. I'll duplicate it using Alt Shift and then the down arrow, and I'll just remove some of the links that we have in here, and I only need 2, so I'll just I'll just have this ending anchor tag. Perfect. Duplicate. Yeah. So I need a logout link. I need settings, and then lastly support. Okay, so let's search the icons for those. Support, support, help, whatever. I think, yeah, that's what I used. I'll just paste that for the support. And for settings, I need a cog icon for settings. I know this is boring, but I just want to walk you through the entire process for building this website. And we have logout. Okay, so for that, I'll just copy this for the logout. Okay, so that is all for our sidebar. That is all for our entire sidebar. All right, so if you take a look, this is what we have so far. Beautiful. Okay, so of course this is ugly, and so we have to go ahead and add some CSS to make it look good, just like we have in the finished project. And so let's go ahead and head into our CSS file. So for the CSS, to make things easier for us, we are going to have some CSS variables. Okay, and I'm going to explain more in my 0 to Hero HTML and CSS course. But basically, they are just variables, right? If you've used any programming languages, you know how variables work. So let's go ahead and have some CSS variables here. And to have a CSS variable, they start with 2 colons and then whatever name you want to give it. So I'll call this color gray 0, which is basically white. So not very white, but close to white. This has a hex code of F5, F7, F9. Okay, I'm going to have another one, color gray 50, and that's going to be E3, E6, E8. Okay, that is the second color we have. I'm going to have another one, color gray 100, and that's going to have a hex code of CBCFD2. Right, I'm going to have a few more variables which I'm just going to paste. And so as you can see, these are the variables we have for the entire project. Okay, and this is actually going to help us with the dark and light theme toggle as well, right? So we have color gray 0 up to color gray 900. That's for the light to dark colors. We have color primary, which is going to be our primary color. We have color primary variant, which I don't think we are even going to use. We have danger, success, info, purple, and all that, right? And then we have this variable, that's transition, all 300 milliseconds is. Of course, I will explain this more in my 0 to Hero course. But basically, this means all properties that are changing should be transitioned. This is the duration for that transition, and this is the timing function. Okay, basically how the transition works, how it behaves during the transition, right? And we have some radius variables here as well. We have radius 1, which is 0.4 rems. Rems are units for responsive designs. I'll explain that more in my 0 to Hero course as well. And we have radius 2, 3, and that's it. Okay, so these are the variables that we have for the entire project. Now, this of course doesn't do anything right now, but basically we are going to use them on the different elements that we will be having. Now let's go ahead and work on some default things that some elements come with. Okay, so if you can see, links have default colors. They have underlines as well, as you can see here. And you can see some elements have patterns, right? You can see this menu that we have for the sidebar has some patterns and a whole lot. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually zero out some default styles for our elements. I'll put this to the right side and then I'll target everything on the page, right? And I will say, I just want you to see what's going on. And I will say, give every element a margin of 0. I'll go ahead and target the padding as well and say every padding double D, every padding should be 0 as well. And now you can see the padding for the menu is gone as well. I will target the border and say every border should be 0. Text decoration, which is the underline for the links, I'll set that to be none. So now the links should have no underline. I'll set box sizing to be border box, and I'll explain this as well in my 0 to hero. And I'll say list style should be none as well. I'll set outline to be 0 and background to be transparent. Some buttons have background, so I'll set that to be transparent. Okay, so that is what we have for the default, reset. And I think this text doesn't look great, so we should actually go ahead and actually get some fonts from Google Fonts. So let's go to Google Fonts or fonts.google.com, and we are going to search for Montserrat. I actually have it, but I'm going to remove it so that we do this from scratch. I'll search for Montserrat. That's the font I mostly use in my tutorials. So I'll just click on Montserrat, and you can go ahead and select the font weight that you want, but I'm just going to grab everything. So I'll get font and I'll go to get embedded code. All right, so this should give me two alternatives, whether to use it in my HTML file or to use it or import it in my CSS file. And I'm going to use the CSS option. So I'll just copy that, everything inside of the style tags. I'll copy that, come back to my CSS file, and way up top here, I'll just paste it. Okay, so this is the font we are going to use in this entire project. Perfect. We are done with Google Fonts, so I'll just close it. Of course, if you check, nothing is happening because we have to target the body. Okay, of course, if you want, you can even put that in here so that every element uses that font. But we are going to target the body and say font family should be Montserrat and a backup of sans serif. Okay, so if we check, you can see our fonts have actually changed. Beautiful. All right, now for the body, I'm actually going to have a few more styles, and I'll go on to actually have some few more, general styles before we actually target the sidebar itself. All right, so for the body, I'll have a maximum width set to 100 viewport width, and viewport width is actually a unit for responsive design as well, which I'll explain more in my 0 to hero course. I'll have a background, and I'll set this to color grade 50, which is the variable we have up top, which is this color right here. So basically we are using this color for the body, right? And in the future, whenever I come back to change this, let's say I do this DDD and then save, you can see that we have a difference. It's not very clear. Let me show you. If I do 444, you can see that's what we have, right? So every element using this variable will be updated. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's continue, and I'm going to give the body a padding of 1 rem. I'll give it a display of flex. So there are two sides to the website. As I said, we have this sidebar, and that is inside the aside tag, if you can remember that, and everything else is going to be inside of a main tag. Everything else, right? So let's actually have that main tag so that the styling actually start working. And so I'm going to have a main as a sibling to the aside, which is the sidebar. I hope that makes sense. That's the aside with a class of sidebar. So that is a sibling to the main, right? And so this display flex is going to put them side by side right here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and put something in the main tag just so we have something. Of course, that wasn't enough. I can go ahead and add more text, and now it should be obvious. They are side by side. Okay, but let's go ahead and actually give it some more styles. So I will display flex in the body, and I'll have a gap of 1.5 rem, basically a space between them, and I'll have a font size of 0.5 or 0.85 rem for every text. I'll say the font family. I'll have a font weight of 500. You know, everything in here is from 100 to 900, and since we have every font weight, we can declare that font weight of 500. I'll have a color of color gray 600 and a line height of 1.6, and also I'll have a transition of the variable transition. Not much happening, but you know, let's keep going. I'm going to have some more styles, and so let's go ahead and have some styles for our anchor tags, and they are all going to have color gray 600, which is dark gray, and a transition of the variable transition. Okay, so basically we are going to have hover effects for our anchor tags. That's why I'm giving them the transitions. Right now, let's go ahead and target every button and set the cursor to be pointer. Okay, so every button is going to have a cursor or pointer. I'm going to target every image and display them to be block. Right, give them a width of 100% of the apparent width, same as the height, 100%, and I'll set object fit to be cover. Okay, so far that's what we have, looking ugly, but of course we are going to actually target that logo to work on that image inside of it. Okay, but for now, these are all general styles that we need to have for us to have an easier time designing the whole website. I'm going to go ahead and target every heading. We have heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to heading 6, but I'll leave it at 5. I'll stop at 5, and let's go ahead. Every heading should have a dark gray color. That's for the text. I'll set font weight to be 600 and line height of 1.2. Okay, now let's target them individually. So heading 1 is going to have a font size of 2 points. I'll do 2.4 rem. Heading 2 is going to have a font size of 1.6 rem. Heading 3 is going to have a font size of 1.1 rem. Heading 4 is going to have a font size of 1 rem. Heading 5 is going to have a font size of 0.8 rem. And I think that's enough. That's enough. And as you can see, they're actually taking place right here. Okay, remember, every heading has a color now, as you can see. Right, they are darker, as you can see, and we have line height reduced and all that, and as you can see, the sizes have reduced as well. Now I'm going to have two more things here, just classes with colors. Color danger, come on, and I'll have one for success, which will be green. Okay, so these are the general styles that we need for the entire project. Okay, these are the general styles we need for the entire project. All right, so now we can target the sidebar alone and work on that. Let's target the sidebar. Remember, we gave it class of sidebar, right? That's your side tag with a class of sidebar. We are going to display that to be flex. Now the flex direction is going to be column. I'll give it a height of 97 viewport height. I'll justify content to be space between, and I'll set a main width of fit content and an actual width of 12 rem. Okay, so the minimum width is going to be the width of its content, right? But I'll give it an actual width of 12 rems. Okay, now let's go ahead and get the sidebar logo. That's the anchor tag with the image here and the shop text. Let's get that and display that to be flex as well. Align items to the center and have a gap of 0.5 rem. Now, not a lot is showing, but you can see we have that displayed as flex. And now I'm going to target the image. It's too big, so sidebar logo image, I'm going to give it a width of 2.4 rem. So if I save now, we have that. I'll give it a background of color gray 0. I'll give it a pattern of 0.5 rem, and I'll give it a border radius as well, and I'll use the radius 2, which I think is 0.8 rem. So now this is what we have for the logo. All right, now let's go ahead and target the H3 inside of the logo. So sidebar logo, and I'll target the H3. I'll give that a font size of 1.4 rem. I'll give that a letter spacing of -1 pixel. Basically, I'll reduce the letter spacing right here, and I'll increase the font weight. I'll give it a font weight of 700. Of course, you can play with the values and then see what works for you, but I think this is good. And if you can remember, we have to change the color of the O, okay, which is inside of a span. So I'll just get that span and give it a color of color primary, which is kind of bluish or purple, whatever this color is. And that's it for the logo. Okay, so now let's go ahead and target the sidebar top and the sidebar bottom. So sidebar top, and I'll give the same styles to the sidebar bottom. Okay, I don't know if I changed the class for the bottom one. I'm not sure. Okay, so this should be sidebar bottom, right? So let's go ahead, and they are going to be displayed flex. The flex direction is going to be column here as well, and we will set a gap of 0.3 rem between them. Okay, so yeah, perfect. Now let's target the anchor tags inside of them. So I'll just grab these two, and in each of them we are going to target the anchor tags, that's the link tags, and display them to be flex as well. Basically, we are putting the icon side by side with the H5 or with the text. I hope that makes sense. So we display flex, we are aligning items to the center. We'll give a gap of 1 rem, border radius of 0.6 rem, and I'll give it a pattern as well, a pattern of 0.8 rem. Okay, beautiful. You know what, I'm actually going to give the main tag a background color of white. Okay, so I'll give it a background of color gray 0 so that we see some difference. Maybe give it a pattern as well, pattern of 2 rem, just so you see the difference. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's continue with the sidebar. Of course, we are not done. I'm going to give the sidebar links some hover effects. Okay, so I'll just copy and then paste this, and on hover of the links inside of the sidebar, I'll just transform and then translate on the x-axis. So I'll do translate x -0. Actually, I'll do 0.5 rem. Okay, so when we hover, we have a cool shift for each of the links. Now I'm going to target the icons, right? I'll target the icons, and I'll give them a font size of 1 rem and also a color of color gray 500. Perfect. Now I'm going to do same for the H5. You know what? This should be for the bottom side as well. So sidebar bottom AI. So this is going to be sidebar bottom AI. Oh, H5. I hope that makes sense. So here I'm going to give this a color of color gray 500 as well. Also, I'll give it a transition. Actually, I'll just leave it. Okay. So that's what we have. Perfect. Now we need something for, let's see, on hover. I actually want to change the background as well. I'll give it a background on hover of color gray 0. Okay, so on hover we have this background. Okay, now let's go ahead and actually have an active class on one of these links. I'm going to put that here on the first one, which is the dashboard. I'll have an active class, and that's just going to have a different style from the rest of the links, right? So sidebar anchor tag, and then if it has an active class, then I'm going to give it a background of color primary, and the text color is going to be color gray 0. Okay, so we save, and the color is not working. That's because we have to target the individual elements inside of the link to give them that color on active. So we have to target the I on active, and sidebar A active H5 should have a color of color gray 0, which is the white color. All right, so I think that is all for the sidebar, and now we can move on to actually have the main side of our website. So I'm just going to remove the text. So in the main, we are going to have a navbar. So let's have this inside an HTML5 nav tag, and then give it a class of navbar. In here, we are going to have a search bar. So I'll just give this a navbar __ search class. So I gave it a class of navbar search. And in here, I'm going to have some icons. So let's come back to icon scout, and I will have search icon. I'll just paste that. I'll have an input field with a placeholder of search, and then I'll have another icon that's a microphone, right? I'll just copy this and then paste that below the inputs. Okay, so that's for the search. Next, we're going to have a menu with a class of navbar __ items, and so I'll have a button first with a class of navbar theme btn, and in here I'm going to have a moon icon. This is a theme button, so I'll have a moon icon and then paste that in here. Next to this button, we are going to have another button that's going to be navbar export btn, and this way of naming classes is called BEM, okay, block element modifier, which I'm going to explain more in my 0 to hero course. So make sure you follow up and then see what's happening in there. A text here, say export, and then we'll have an upload file. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to use this export icon. I'll have this export icon in here, right? Now below that, we are going to have a div with a class of navbar items image, and I'm going to have an image in there. So let's go into our assets, and I'm going to search for candidate 1. That's an image in there. Okay, so That is all we need for our navbar. Okay, this is all we need for our navbar inside of our main tag. Now, below the navbar, we are actually going to have some more things. If you check the finished project, we have a navbar here spanning the entire width of the main, the main side of the website, and then we are going to have all these below it. Okay, so yeah, now let's see what we have so far, and this is it. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually give this some styling. Let's hop into our CSS. I hope this is not too boring, guys. I don't know, my energy is a little bit down today, but hopefully you are flowing along. I'm going to remove the earlier styles I had. That was just for the text. But now let's have some real styles for the main side of this website. All right, so let me actually call this navbar. Okay. So for the main, I'm actually going to give it a width of 100 so that we fill the entire space, right? So now you can see you fill the rest of the page. Come on. All right, so now let's target the navbar. I gave that a class of navbar, a nav tag with a class of navbar. Let's give that a width of 100% as well. I'll display this to be flex. I'll justify content to be spaced between, and I'll align items to the center, okay, and have a gap of 1 rem. Actually, we don't even need a gap, but I'll just leave it like that. All right, so now let's target the navbar search, which is the left side here, and let's give that a background of white. Okay, so that's color gray 0. Give it a width of 35 rem, pattern 0.8 rem, border radius of radius 2, display flex, justify contents to be spaced between. I'll have align items to the center, of course, and have a gap of 0.5 rem. Okay, so that is it. That's what we have so far. And of course, we showed, you know what, I'm going to target the input. Okay, so I'll say navbar search, and then the inputs inside of that. Let me just give it a background of red so that you see it clearly. Okay, so that's the input, but I want it to span from here to there. Okay, so let's give it a width of 100%, of course, and a text color. So just say color should be color gray 900, which is the darkest color, and I'll just say background should be transparent. Okay, so I'll just remove the red background. Come on, I save, and this is what we have. Perfect. All right, now let's take care of the right side, which is the navbar. What is it? Navbar items. Yeah, the menu with a class of navbar items. Let's take care of that. So navbar items, I'll display that to be flex, align items to the center, and give it a gap of 1 rem. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Of course, the image makes it look weird, but we are going to adjust the width of the image real soon. But let's proceed, and I'm going to target the buttons. Okay, so navbar items, and then the button or the buttons inside of that. Let's give them a background color gray 0. That's the white color, and a text color of color gray 900. That's the dark color or the darkest color. A pattern of 0.8 rem for the top and bottom, and then 1 rem for the left and right, and a border radius of radius 2. All right, perfect. Now let's go ahead and target the navbar theme button. I'll set the font size to be 1 rem. Beautiful. All right, now navbar export btn. I'm going to target the icon here. Come on. and I'll give it a margin left of 0.8 rem just to push it a little bit from the text. Okay, just to have some space in there. And what else? I think, yeah, we can target the image now. So Navbar items, and did I give it that class? I don't think so. So let me quickly give it that class. Okay, Navbar items image, that's the class I gave it. I'll give it a width of 2.6 rem, aspect ratio of 1:1, and that makes it a perfect square. Border radius of radius 2, overflow of heading, and yeah, we have it. Okay, so that is all for our navbar. Okay, and that is all for our navbar. And now let's move on to the next thing, that is the cards that we have here. Let's move on to that. So back into our main, below the navbar, we are going to have our cards. Even with the main, I'm going to split it a bit more. Okay, so we are done with the navbar, of course. Now the rest of the page remaining, that's from this heading here to this top bar that we have here, this top categories that we have here. All this space, all this remaining space is going to be put in a div or a section with a class of main wrapper. Okay, and in that I'm going to split it into two, right? You're going to have the left side, which is going to be the space with the cars and the graph here, or the bar chart here. And then we are going to have the right side, which is going to have the top categories and the upcoming events. Okay, so let's do that. We are going to split it into two. We'll have this side, which is the left side, and then we'll have this right side. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a section with a class of main wrapper, and inside that we'll have another section with a class of main left, and then I'll duplicate that to have main right. For now, we are in the main left, which is where the cards are going to be. But in here, we are going to have an H1 first. That will say overview. Right, and below that, we are going to have our cards, which is going to be inside a menu tag with a class of cards. And let's have our article tag with a class of card, singular. Now let's have an H5. I'll say product viewed. And I'll have a span, and this span is actually going to have a class, okay, a class of success. Some will have a class of danger. Now if you can remember, in the general styles that we had, I had those classes at the end right here. So I have a class of danger and a class of success. One has the danger color, which is red, and one has the success color, which is green, right? So that is what I'm having here. And in the span, I'm going to have some some figures. This is going to be 5.0%, and below the H5 I'm going to have an H2, and this will say 953.4k or 1000. Below this H2 I'm going to have a div, and I'll have a small tag inside of that, which will say versus last month. So this is just a comparison to the last month's performance. And I'll have a value here or a figure here as well. Perfect. Okay, so that is for one article or one card. And so I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this 3 more times, just so we have all the 4 cards. And that's enough for now. We can go ahead and actually style this. So let's head on to the CSS and style this real quick. I'll just copy this comment and then paste it down here. And that's for the cards. Of course, let's see what we have so far. And as you can see, we have our cards and we have our H1. Okay, so let's go ahead and style this. All right, now I'm going to get the section with a class of cards. That's the plural. And I'm actually, you know what, I'm going to get the main wrapper. Right, so we had a section with a class of main wrapper, I hope you can remember that. I'm going to display that grid. Come on, display grid. The grid template columns is going to be 1FR. Sorry, let me actually make it 3FR, 1FR. Okay, so this part is going to be 3FR and this side is going to be 1FR. And to see this clearly, I'm actually going to go ahead and for the right side, I'll have some dummy stuff in here. Okay, so now you can see this side, and this side is what we are going to work on now, right? And so I'll actually have a gap between them. A gap of 1 rem should be enough, and that's it. Okay, now let's target the H1, that's the overview, and give it a margin top of 1 rem, and that's it, just to have some space below the navbar or below the search bar. Okay, all right, now let's target the cards, and I'm going to give that a margin of 0.7 rem for the top and bottom, and then 0 for the left and right. I'll give it a display of grid. Set the grid templates columns to be repeat 4 times 1FR. Perfect. Now let's have a gap of 1 rem between them. I'll set align items to be center. Perfect. Now I'll target the individual cards. So with the class, the articles with the class of card, I'll give them a background of linear gradient. Okay, so this is going to be, the angle of this color is going to be 135 degrees, and for the first color is going to be FFF 1F1, and for the second color is going to be FFF, actually FF8 686. So let's give this a pattern of 1 rem for the top and bottom, and then 1.5 rem for the left and right. I'll give this a border radius of radius 2. I'll say color, or the text color should be, I'll make this, I won't use a variable color, and I'm not using a variable color here because I don't want it to change. Okay, you understand that once we get to the theme customization. Right, so I'll position this to be relative, and you're going to understand why. I'll say overflow should be hidden, and I'll give it a transition. Come on. I'll give it a transition of the variable transition, and I'll set the cursor to be default. Right, perfect. Now let's target the other elements inside of the card, starting with the H5. So card H5, I'll set the color to be, I'll use a fixed color here as well because I don't want it to change when the theme changes. And now I'll get a card H5 span and set the margin left to be 0.3 rem and the font size to be 0.7 rem. Okay, so that we have some space. And I'll have the H2. I'll set the margin to be 1 rem for the top, 0 for the left and right, and then 1.8 for the bottom. The color, or the text color, is going to be, here too I'm going to use a fixed color, but it's going to be the same color as the color gray 900. So I'll just copy that and then come way down here and then paste it. Right, of course we should have the hash. Okay, so that is what we have so far. Now let's get this div with these small texts. So let's get a card and a div inside of that. We are going to display flex. We justify content to be spaced between and align items to the center. Beautiful. So this is what we have so far. Okay, so you want these to be different, right? So I'm going to go ahead and actually change the colors. Okay, so we have to select them individually and then change the background colors, right? So I'll just paste this, and For the nth child 2, that's the second card, I'm going to give it a different color. Wait a minute, I'll just copy what I have here for the background, paste it, and this is going to be EEFCFF. That's for the first color. The second color is going to be 3EC2E3. Okay, so now we have that. Now for the third card, so we have two more, the third and the fourth. This is called a pseudo selector, by the way. This way of selecting siblings, they are called pseudo selectors. All right, so for the third color, it's going to be FE, FE, EE, and D9, E1, 4A. Right, and for the fourth card, the first color right here is going to be F2E, FFF, and the second color is going to be A391FF. Okay, so this is what we have. Perfect. So we are basically done with the cards. Now the only thing I need to change is the text content. Okay, they have to be different. And if I should go ahead and actually, I'll just remove this. That's too much. If I go ahead and make some of these danger, you can see that there's going to be danger. It's going to be red. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and change the text content of each card just so we have different text, and then I'll come back so that we continue. All right, so I just edited everything, and this is what we have. Okay, so if I show save and then come back to the project, and you can see we have different contents. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's get on and actually have the these effects, this cool kind of shadow effects that we have on the individual cards. Okay, so to achieve that, we're actually going to use more pseudo elements. So right after the card, I'm going to target the before pseudo element of the card. Okay, and that is why I positioned this to be relative, and I set the overflow to be hidden. I'm actually going to comment this out for you to see how it is going to take effect. So for the before pseudo element, I'm going to set the content to be nothing. Of course, I'll display this to be block, and position is going to be absolute, right? And since this is in relation to the actual card that we are getting, it's before, that is why I need to make this relative, okay, for this to respect the card. I hope that makes sense. So from the right is going to be negative to negative 25%, and from the top is going to be 15%. Now the height is going to be 140%, and the aspect ratio is going to be 1:1. The background is going to be linear gradient, and for now I'll just do black and white just so you see how it is going to work. Okay, and I'll set the border radius to be 50%. All right, so I'll save this. If you come, you can see everything is off, and that's because I commented that out. Okay, so I'll just bring it back, save, and now you can see we have these circles inside of each card. Now for this effect to work, we are just going to play with the color, right? That's a linear gradient. The black, I'm going to keep it, but for the white, it's actually going to be transparent. Okay, and the angle, I think what works best in this scenario is 115 degrees angle. Okay, so now you can see we have the shadow from this side, and then getting to the outside of the card, all of this side is going to be transparent. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so for this to actually be more effective, I'm going to have some more colors in the linear gradient. So 2 more transparent, and now this is what we have. Okay, I think we can keep it at 2, but I think 3 is not too bad as well. So the last thing I need to do here is actually to reduce the opacity of the pseudo elements, and I'm going to give it an opacity of 0.1, and now we should have that effect. Okay, beautiful. So if you check, we had 2 here, so I'm going to go ahead and have another pseudo element where is going to be the after pseudo element of the card. So we have before pseudo elements and we have after. And for this, I'm just going to make some adjustments. The height is going to be 70, so the width is going to be the same since the aspect ratio is 1:1. From the top is going to be 15 here as well. And now if I save this, now that's what we have. Perfect. I think the last thing we need to do is actually to have a hover effect. Okay, so right here I'll get the card, and on hover I just want to have a shift. Okay, just a change in the translate on the y-axis. Okay, so I will translate on the y-axis negative 0.5 rems. Okay, so it will jump up a little bit, and I'll give it a box shadow as well. 0 for the x-axis, 1 rem, for the y-axis, 1 rem, for the blur, and there's going to be a shadow of color gray 100. Okay, so now we have everything set for the card. Okay, everything is looking great for the card. All right, so now let's move on to the next thing, which is the bar chart that we have here. And so let's hop back into our HTML, and of course that's going to be below the cards. So I'll have some space here, still inside of the section. That's the main left. Okay, still inside of that, but below the cards menu. This is actually just a tag that I'm going to have. I'm going to have a tag of canvas and an ID of chart. Okay, this is all I need. Okay, so right here I'm just going to copy this comment, and I'll have the styles for that. That's for the bar chart. And so let's get this an ID, so we use the hash. So the background, I'm going to give it a color of color gray 0, that's the white. Border radius of radius 2. I'll set a pattern of 2 rem, a width of 100%, a height of 22 rem, and I'll give it a margin 1 rem for the top and bottom, and then 0 for the left and right. So we save and come back to our project, and this is what we have. We are going to use JavaScript to actually make it work, and I want all the JavaScript to be at the end of the video. So I'll just leave it as it is, and then we will come back to it. Okay, wait a minute, pardon. Okay, yeah, perfect. All right, so let's move on to the top products. That is the table. So let's get back into the HTML. Right after the canvas, we are going to have our top products. I'll have this inside a section tag. I'll give it a class of top products, and I'll have an h3 here, top selling, come on, products. That's what they will say. And I'll have a table below that. Now below the table, I actually have a small tag as well that will say see more. Right now in the table, we are going to have a T head and a T body. So T head and a T body. In the T head, let's have our T row, and our th. The first th will say product or product singular. I'll duplicate this 4 times. I'll have stock, price, sales, earnings. Yeah, earnings. Perfect. And I'll have one more that is empty. Okay. And so that's it for the T head. Now in the T body, we have our TR. Come on. TR. And for the TD or the table data, you have the first one being an image. Okay. And actually, it won't just be an image. You actually have an image and a text. So let's have an image in a div. And so I'll go into my assets to grab an image. That's a product image. And below that div, I'll have a paragraph. And I'll say winter jacket for females. That's one TD. And so below that, I'll have another TD. That's for the price. It should match what we have here. Oh, that's actually for the stock. So we have the product right here, which has the image and the product name. You should have the stock, the price, the sales, and all that. So the second is going to be the stock. I'll just put in a value here. I'll have a comma. We have the sale. Is it a price or the sale? Yeah, the price. We have the price, and so TD, the price I'll do $23.99. We have the sales, and that's for the earnings. And lastly, is it a profit or what? I don't know, whatever that is, but we are just going to have something in percent. Okay, so 11.5% here. Right, so that's for one table row. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate this table row just so we can style it, and then I'll come back to actually, have some unique figures in here. All right, so if I save this and then we come back to our project, this is what we have for our table. Okay, so let's go ahead and style this table. That's the top products, and then we will come back to the HTML to actually have some unique figures in that. So that's for the top products. Hey guys, by mistake, I didn't click record when I was typing these out. Okay, so these are the styles for the top products, right? But I forgot to hit record, and then, so please go ahead, just pause and then type all these out. Okay, and that's it. All right, so that's for the table and everything inside of the top product section right here. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead to actually change the content, the values, the figures, and all that, to make sure we have some unique values for each table row. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but make sure you pause and actually, let me zoom in, actually zoom out for you to see everything. So we started from here, so you can pause and then type all these out. That's for the styles. So I'm going to go ahead, change the content of the top products, and then I'll come back so that we can continue with the rest of and the remaining part is the right side. Okay, so I'll go ahead and change the content of the table, and then we'll continue with the right side of the website. All right, so I just got done with the editing of the table. Everything is different now for every table row, and yeah, so I'll just make this bigger for you to see everything. And if you check our website, this is what you should have. Okay, so we have different images, different product names and all that. All right, so let's hop into the main right. That's the remaining section of the entire page. So the main right is going to be simple. First, we are going to have, our top categories. So let's have an article with a class. Come on, article with a class of top categories. And in that, we are going to have a header with an h4 that will say top categories. Below that, we are going to have an icon. Okay, so let's get back here, and yeah, this icon is what we are going to have. So I'll just search menu, and this is it. I'll just copy, of course, come back and paste that. And below the header, we are going to have a canvas. Okay, and that is going to be the pie chart. So canvas with an ID of categories, and we are going to use JavaScript to actually work on that. So I'll just leave that. And below the canvas, we are going to have an added list with a list item. Now the list item is going to have a div that's going to have an empty span, and below the span we are going to have an h5. The first one will say fashion, and below the div I'm actually going to have an h6 that will say 80%, or I'll do 80.4%, and I'll just duplicate this like 3 more times. Okay, so the next is going to be food, which will be 73.0%. The next is going to be electronics, and that will be 55 point whatever percent. I'll just leave it like this. And the last one is going to be others. Okay, and that will be 47%. All right, so that is all we need to do here. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually see what we have, and that's it. Okay, for the pie charts, we are actually going to get to it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and actually style this, and once we are done with everything on the page, we will use the JavaScript to bring the pie chart in. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our CSS and give this some styling. I'll copy the comments here, come all the way down, paste it. It's going to be top categories. Come on, yeah, perfect. And I should even bring this to the left so that you see everything happening live. So let's give that a background. Of course, we should target it top categories. Yep, that's the class we gave it. And so I'll give that a background of color gray 0. That's the white color. Maximum width of 100%. Border radius of radius 2. A margin of 1.5 rem for the top, and 0 for the left and right, and then 1 rem for the bottom. I'll give it a padding of 1 rem as well. Okay, so this is what we have. Now I'm going to target the header. So top categories, and then the header inside of that. I'll display flex, align items to the center, and justify content to be space between. Space between, come on, yeah, perfect. Now target the icon and then make it a little bit bigger. So I'll say font size of 1.1. I'll just do 1 rem. Not bad. Come on. Now let's go ahead and target the canvas. So we give that an ID of categories, and so I'll give that a maximum width of 100%, a margin top of -2 rem to push it up. But for now, I'll actually what should I just keep it? Yeah, I'll just keep it like that. You know what, let's go on, and I'm going to get an added list right here. So top categories UL, and I'll display that to be flex. Of course, the flex direction is going to be column, and the gap 1.2 rem. I'll give it a margin of 0.6 for the left and right, and then 0 for the top and no 0.6 for the top and bottom, and then 0 for the left and right. Now let's target the li. So top categories ul li, display flex here as well. I'll say justify content to be spaced between here as well, and I'll align items to the center. Beautiful. Now remember we had an empty span. Okay, so that span we should get it and give it some styling. Right here we had empty spans. So top categories ul li span, width of 0.7 rem, aspect ratio of 1:1, background I'll do b1 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 for now. Border radius, it shouldn't be a variable, of course, just 50%, right, to make it a perfect circle. And I'll display it to be block. Okay, so I save, that's what I get. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually display that to be flex, because you know that's the span and the h5, they are in a div. So I'm going to grab that div and then display that to be flex. So top categories and ul li, inside that we have a div. I'll display that to be flex. The flex, you know what, I'll just align items to the center and have a gap of 0.8 rem. Beautiful. Now wait, did I have a button? I'm going to go ahead and actually have a button that's right below the an added list. I'm going to have a button and I'll say view details, and I'll actually have an icon next to it. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, there's the icon I want. I'll just copy that, come back and then paste it. Right, so top categories, I'll grab the button that I just had and I'll give it a margin. I'll give it a margin top of 0.7 rem. I'll give it a padding of 0.7 rem. I'll give it a text align to the center, a width of 100%, border radius of radius 1, background of color gray 50, color gray 900. Beautiful. Okay, so now what I want to do is to actually change the colors for the spans that we have here. Okay, so I will target each span right here, just copy that, and nth child, I'll get the second one and give it a background of color purple. I'll just duplicate 2 more times. I'll have the third one and the fourth one, and the third one is going to be color success and the fourth one is going to be color info. Come on, so we wait a minute, span, why is it not working though? Nth child, oh, we should get the nth child for the li, and then we target the span inside of the li. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, perfect. So now we have it. Okay, so as I said, we are going to have the pie charts later when we get to the JavaScript. But now I think we can move on to the next part of the page, which is going to be the upcoming events. Okay, so we are done completely with the top categories. We can now move on to the upcoming events. So let's get back to the HTML, and right below the article tag here, we are going to have our upcoming events. Let's have an article tag with a class of next events. Let's have a header, H4, upcoming events. And of course, I'm going to have that same icon I had here. So I'll just copy this. Wait a minute. Yeah. I'll just copy that and then paste that in here. Now below the header, we are going to have an added list. The LI is going to have a div inside of it. And I'll actually give this a class of event image. And let's have our image. Let's go into our assets and get our first event image. Below the div, that's the event image div, I'm going to have another div. And for this, I'll actually not give it any class, but I'll have an age 5, and this will say Christmas holiday sales. Below the age 5, you will have a small tag, 20 to 25, or 20th to 25th in December 2024. You know what, I'll make this 2025. I don't want this to be in the past, you know. And of course, I'm actually recording this in 2025, so yep. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this 2 more times and just change the images. Okay, you know what, I'll change everything. So this is going to be event 2, this is going to be event 3, and for the titles, this is going to say end of year sales, and that's going to be 26th to 31st. Now the last one is a new year. Yeah, new year, come on, new year sales, and that'll be 1st to 5th. And deliberately I'm going to make this 2026, yeah, of January. Right, so that is it for the markup, and I think we should have a button here as well. So I'm going to have a button that will say view event calendar, and just like we had for the top categories, I'll have this icon inside of the button. So I'll just copy and then paste that. Okay, and that should be all for the upcoming events. Okay, that should be all for the upcoming events. So let's go ahead and actually style this real quick. And of course, I'm going to grab the comment to make sure it's well commented. Upcoming events. So let's get that tag. Let's get that class next events. Okay. So next events, I'll give that a background of white. Come on. The pattern 1 rem, border radius 2. So that's what we have. Now I'll target the header. So next event header, and then display that to be flex. That's for content space between line items to the center, of course. Now on the next event I, or the next event header I, the color, I'll just change the font size 1.1 rem or 1 rem. That should be enough, just like we did for the top categories. Okay, now let me grab the images. So next event, or let me grab this. Wait a minute, you know what, I should have an image right here before the unadded list. Okay, so right after the header, I'm going to have an image before the unadded list. So let's do that. Let's have a div with a class of next events image. I'll have my image. So let's go inside here and grab the event PNG. Okay, perfect. So yeah, that's it, and that's what I want to grab here. So next events image, I'll give that a margin of 1 rem for the top and bottom, and then 0 for the left and right. Border radius of radius 2. I'll give it a height of 10 rem and set overflow to be hidden. Okay, so we have that. So now we can go on to target the next event and added list. Display flex direction column, of course, and a gap of 0.8 rem. Great. Now the list item. So next event ULLI, display flex, gap of 1 rem, align item center, box shadow. I'll do 001 rem for the blur, color gray 100, and I'll have a padding of 0.5 rem and the border radius of radius 2. This should be padding. Perfect. So that's what we have. Now of course we should make the image smaller. So event image, I don't know if we gave that a class. Yeah, event image. So let's target event image, give it a weight of 3 rem, and it's going to be same for the height. So I'll just set aspect ratio 1:1. So that's 3 rem for the height as well. Border radius 1, and I'll set overflow to be hidden. Okay, we have that. Now let's go ahead and target the last element, and that's going to be the button. So next event button, I'll give that a padding 0.7 rem, text align center, give it a width of 100%, border radius 1, and a background color gray 50. Okay, yeah, there we have it. And I should give this a margin. Yeah, I should give it a margin top of about 1 rem. Perfect. All right, now I just want to target the, did I target this? Yeah. Okay, so I just want to have some space, or should I just leave it like this? I'll just leave it like that. Okay, and I think that is it. Okay, that is it for the entire HTML and CSS. Of course, for the CSS we'll get to the media queries to make this responsive, but we are done with everything for the page so far. Okay, we just have to make this responsive and also bring in the charts as well. So let's work on the media queries. We are going to have 2 media queries. Okay, the first one is going to be for medium devices, tablets basically. Let me actually copy this comment right here, come down and then paste it. So media queries, I'll say tablets, and at media screen and max width 1024 pixels. Okay, so any device screen or any window below this width is going to have these styles that we are going to put in. Okay, so just for us to see where the breakpoint is, I'm going to put display none on the body at that breakpoint. Okay, so so I just want to see where it starts. I'll put this on the side here. All right here. Okay, if you want, of course, you can go ahead and actually view this on a tablet device, okay, on a rendered tablet device in your browser, but I'm just going to keep it this way. I'll just put this to the side here, and yeah, let me get in that. Perfect. All right, so that's the breakpoint. Now let's go ahead and start this. I'll get the sidebar and I'll give it a width. I think we already gave it a width of fit content, right? But I will give it a width of fit content. Yeah, I gave it a width of 12 rem earlier, but here I'm setting it to fit content. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab the H3. That's the logo here. I'm going to grab that and display that to none. And also I'm going to display the text for the links here. I'm going to display them to none as well. So sidebar H3 and sidebar H5. I'll display those to none. All right, so this is what we have. Perfect. Now let's continue and grab the links. Sidebar A. I'll give them a padding of 0.7 rem. All right, that's what we have. Now let's continue. Navbar search, and I'm going to reduce the width. I'll do 40 viewport width. Okay, so the width is reduced. Now let's grab the top products and set a margin bottom of 0. Wait a minute. Yeah, I'll set a margin bottom of 0 here. Perfect. Now let's grab the top categories and I'm going to set a margin top of 0 here as well. Okay, that's this. You know what, I'll comment this out for now. Okay, but let's proceed and I'll grab the main wrapper, and the grid templates columns here is going to be 1FR. Okay, so now that actually makes sense to set this to be a margin top of 0. So I'll actually bring this down. Yep. Perfect. So now this is actually looking pretty good. What else? I'll grab the next event and let me see. You know, so I just give it a space at the bottom. Okay, so I'll give it a margin bottom of about 3 rem so that we have some space down here. Okay, so that is it for the media queries on tablets. Okay, that is it for the media queries on tablets. And now let's go ahead and let's see. Let's go ahead and have media queries for mobile phones. So I'll copy the comments and then paste, and I'll do 600 pixels. Okay. So any window width or device width of 600 pixels and below are going to have these styles. Okay, so just to see the breakpoints, I'll give a display of none to the body just so we see where the breakpoint is, and right here this what the breakpoint is. Okay, so this way we are going to have our styles for our mobile phones or our small devices. I'm going to grab the body, and actually I'll put a padding of 0.6 rem on the body. Okay, initially it was 1 rem, but I'll reduce it to 0.6 rem. Now let's grab the sidebar toggle open. I don't know if I even have this. Okay, so let me check real quick. Right below the sidebar menus, okay, right below the aside tag, I should have 2 buttons to open and close the sidebar on mobile phones. Okay, so let me actually have those buttons, and of course we'll go to Icon Scout to grab the icons for that. So let's have a button. The first one is going to have a class of Sidebar Toggle open, and the second one will be Sidebar Toggle close. Okay, right, of course we should go to Icon Scout and grab an icon menu. Now let's make this bigger. Yep, so I'll grab this and then paste it in the first one, and I'll grab a close menu as well. Oh, come on. I'll copy this and then paste it in the close button. Okay, so yeah, let's come back here and continue. I'll make this smaller and actually make this bigger. So Sidebar Toggle open, and then Sidebar Toggle close. They are going to have the same styles. Okay, so we are going to, of course, I think we should actually display them none on big screens, right? So on big screens they shouldn't show. So I'm going to come up here right below the sidebar styles, and I'll have Sidebar Toggle open and Sidebar Toggle close, right? And here on big screens I'm going to set them to be display of none. All right, so on big screens they are not going to show, but on mobile phones that is when we need them. So yeah, we are going to have some styles for them. Let me bring this back to the small size. I'll display them to be inline block. They are going to have a width of 3 rem, aspect ratio of 1:1. Come on, and that will make it a perfect square. I'll position it fixed, and I want it around here, so I'm going to give it a bottom of about 10 viewport height, or actually I'll give it a top. Okay, you can do bottom, but I'll give it a top of 90 viewport height, and I'll give it a right of about 2 rem. Right, if you want you can give it a bottom of about 3 rem or something like that, and they should show here. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Right, so let's give it a border radius of radius 2. I'll give them a background of color gray 900, a text color of color gray 0, and the font size of 1.5 rem. And lastly, I'll give them a z-index to make them sit on top of everything on the page, and a z-index of 2 is enough for that. Okay, so that's what we have. Now you can see the close is sitting on top of the open. Okay, so I'm going to grab the close and display that to be none. Okay, so initially it is actually going to be displayed none. That's for the close. So we will have the menu button. Now let's grab the sidebar itself and give it a background of color gray 50. I'll give it a maximum width of 15 rem. I'll give it a position of fixed as well. I'll give it a bottom of 0 and a left of negative 100%. You know what? I'm actually going to give it a left of 0 for now. Okay, so left of 0, but I'm going to give it an initial left of negative 100% so that it is off screen. Okay, we are going to animate it in on click of this, but for now I want us to actually see it. I'll give it a box shadow of 2 rem for the x-axis, negative 2 rem for the y-axis, 2 rem for the blur, and RGBA of 0.15. So black with some alpha. I'll give it a height of fit content. I'll give it a width of 25 rem. I'll give it a border radius of 0, radius 2, and then 0, 0. That is the top right border radius. Okay. Wait a minute. Border radius 0, 0, and then yeah, perfect, like that. Okay, so I'll give it a z-index as well. Z-index of 1 should be enough. And lastly, I'll give it a transition. As I said, I'll be animating it in, so a transition is needed for it to be smooth. All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and you see these corners. I'm going to remove that. So I'll grab the sidebar A and I'll give it a border radius of 0. Right, so those corners are gone. And on hover, I think I should remove that hover effect on mobile phones. Okay, so on hover, I'll give it a transform, translate X to be 0. So now you shouldn't have that hover effect, that shift on hover. Okay, all right, now let's proceed, and I'm going to grab the Navbar logo right here. So, oh, sorry, the sidebar logo. We are working on the sidebar, remember? So sidebar underscore logo. I'll give it a margin bottom of 1 rem. And I'll grab the H3 and then show it. Okay, so it will be displayed in line. All right, so that is it. I'll grab the H5s in the links here. So sidebar H5, come on, and I'll give them a display of inline as well. We could actually put that here, okay, right, since it's the same inline that I want to give them. I hope that makes sense. All right, now I'll give the sidebar bottom, I'll give that a margin top of 2 rem to have some space between them. Of course, if you want them to be like, you know, to look as if they belong to the same thing, you can just remove this margin top, okay? But for me, I just want some space between them. So let's proceed, and I'm going to grab the navbar. Okay, so the navbar, the direct div inside of it, and there are multiple divs. So I'll grab the first child and I'll give it a rate of 100%. So let me scroll up so that you see what's happening. Okay, and now you can see the navbar search is actually full, right? And I'll grab that's actually the navbar search, right? Yeah, that's the navbar search, right? So let's proceed, and I'll grab the navbar export btn and I'll display it to be none on small screens, right? We don't need that. And I'm going to target the cards. I'll set the grid template columns to be 1FR, and I'll get the card itself and set it before to have a right of -10% and a top of -2%. Okay. I think we should get the cards. Wait a minute. I'm putting this outside. So the cards, yeah, perfect. That's what we have. Now, of course, you can play around. You know what? I'm going to get this off screen. Okay, so for the sidebar, I'm going to make the left negative 100%. Okay, so it's going to go off screen, and yeah, so that we see the rest of the page. And I think this is not looking too bad. You know what? I'm actually going to view this on an actual render, just so you see how it actually looks like. Okay, and some things ain't looking so good. I think, yeah, the table, we have to work on the table. So let me actually put this on the left. Perfect. And bring this here. Right, so let's grab the table and do something about it. Before we grab the table, I'm actually going to duplicate this and grab the after. Okay, in the card after, I'm going to make the right -10 as well. Okay, so yeah, that shows. Now let's grab the table. So that's the table tag, T head, TR. I'll display that to be flex, and the flex direction is going to be column. Okay, that works right here. Now let's grab the table body. So table T body, TR, display flex direction column, and a width of 100%. Okay, that looks good as well. Wait a minute. I'm going to text align this to be on the left. Okay, so that is it. Table head. So table T head, TR, TH, text align should be on the left. All right, so we save. Did we even give this any, any spaces? I don't think we did. So let me just see. Yeah, you have to give this some padding. Okay, it doesn't look too good. So I'm going to go up to where we had the table, and in the T head, come on, table T head. No, we didn't. So let me grab the table, the T head, and I'll grab the TH inside of it and have a pattern of the same pattern we gave to the TD here. So 0.5 should be okay. Okay, so it is not looking too bad. Or you can even increase it to about 0.7 or something like that. And yeah, this is perfect. Okay, so on mobile devices, of course, they should look good here as well. Okay, right here. I think 0.5 was perfect. Okay, so that is it for the media queries, guys. That is it for the media queries. As you can see, this is actually looking great on mobile phones. So the next thing we need to do is to add the JavaScript to the application for us to be able to change the theme, and also for us to be able to bring in the sidebar on click of this, and also to be able to close it. And also the last thing we would have to do is to add the bar charts and the pie charts. Okay, so let's move on, and I think we are going to start with the theme. If you guys don't mind, I'll just keep the mobile view here, and we will scroll all the way up to the top here, and right here I'm going to paste something. Okay, I'm going to have a class called dark, and I'm going to paste some variables in here. Okay, now the dark theme works very easily when you are using the variables, the CSS variables. Okay, so basically we are going to switch the lighter colors with the darker colors, and we are going to switch the darker colors with the lighter colors. So for instance, color gray 0 is almost white here, right? But in the dark class, the variables here, color gray 0 is actually the darkest. We have color gray 50, which is also dark, but color gray 50 here is light. I hope that makes sense. So the lighter colors are going to be switched to darker colors and vice versa. I hope that makes sense. And how this works is, if I go ahead to the body and I add a class of dark, okay, right here, the body tag here, I'm going to add a class of dark. If I do so and save, of course I have to save the CSS. If I do so and save, you can see that we have darker theme. Okay, I didn't save the CSS, that's why. Okay, so you add the class of dark to the body and you get a dark theme. If you remove it, then you're going to get the root variables right here. I hope that makes sense. So that is how we are going to be able to switch or toggle the dark and the light theme. All right, so of course we are going to use JavaScript. So what am I doing? Let's scroll all the way down in our HTML and link our JavaScript file. So script with the source main.js. Okay, so in our main.js, for us to just see that it is actually working, I'll have an alert and that's it. So it is actually working. And so let's grab the button that's going to do the toggle. Okay, so I'll call it, I'll call it theme button, document dot query selector, navbar theme btn, and I'll say theme btn dot add event listener. This is going to be a click event, and on click I'll get the body, that's document dot body, and I'll check if the body class name is equal to nothing. If so, then we are going to change it to be the dark theme. Okay, so basically if the body has no class name, then that means we are on the lighter theme, therefore we want to switch to the opposite, that is the dark theme. But if it is already a dark theme, that means if the body has a class of dark, then we are actually going to switch to the lighter theme. I hope that makes sense. So here the body class name should be equal to dark, right? Otherwise, then the body class name should be equal to nothing, which is the light. I hope that makes sense. All right, so now if I click, boom, we have a dark theme. Okay, if I click again, we have a light theme. Of course, you can go ahead and add a lot more functionality to change the icon, for instance, to a sun icon. Right, you can go ahead and do all that, but I think this is okay. But it shouldn't be that difficult. So you can go ahead and play with it if you want. Right, so that is all for the theme toggle functionality. Now let's go ahead and work on the sidebar opening and closing. Okay, we should be able to show the sidebar so that we can use it and also close it when we don't need it. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to grab this button. I'll grab the sidebar itself, which is hidden off screen, and I'll grab the close button as well. Remember these buttons were two, right? So let's grab those three things. I'll grab the sidebar open btn, and that'll be document.query selector sidebar, come on, underscore toggle open. That's the class I gave it. I'll duplicate this twice. We have sidebar toggle close, so I'll just call this sidebar close btn. Come on. And lastly, the sidebar itself, that will be sidebar, and the class is sidebar. Okay, so let's put a click event on this button right here. So that's the sidebar open, and on click, so add event listener, which is going to be a click event. And on click, I want to, first of all, the style of the sidebar is going to have a left of 0. Remember, initially it is off screen, and that is because we set the left to be negative 100%. Where is it? Sidebar, yeah, right here. That is why it's off screen. Okay, the left is set to negative 100%, so it is off screen. But here we are setting it to 0% and it will bring it to it will bring it to view. So once we do that, let's actually try this. If I click, you can see the sidebar comes in, right? So once we have the sidebar, we want to change this button to be the close button. We want to replace it with the close button. So sidebar close, I'll change the style dot display to be inline block, and the sidebar open btn style display should be equal to none. All right, so I'm going to try this one more time. If I click, you can see the bar button is gone, the sidebar comes in, and then now we have the close button. I hope that makes sense. All right, now of course we should be able to click the close button as well to hide the sidebar. So I'm just going to duplicate this function, and that will be on the sidebar close btn, and on click, now there is going to be negative 100% again, so it's going to go off screen. The sidebar close is rather going to be displayed none, and the sidebar open btn is going to be displayed inline block. I hope that makes sense. All right, so this should work perfectly. I click, everything works. I click, and then everything works again. I hope that makes sense. Of course, the theme should be working as well, and everything is looking amazing. Perfect. So the last thing we need to do is to have the bar chart and the pie chart here in the top categories. All right, so let's start with the bar chart. To be able to have the bar chart, we are going to use a library called chartjs.org. And let's go to, of course, you can scroll to see the different charts that you can create with this, but we just need a bar chart. So let's go to get started. I'm going to click get started here and go to installations, and right here, let's go to get started actually here. Okay, so here you can see we have a canvas right here with an ID of my chart. Okay, in our case, we actually gave our canvas the ID of chart, if you can remember. So when we scroll down, okay, up here, you can see we have a canvas with the ID of chart, right? So that's what we are going to put our bar chart in. And then in our main JS, this is what we are going to paste. So I'm going to copy this. This is a simple bar chart. So I'll copy that and then paste it down here in my main.js. But of course, we have to adjust some things. In this case, we are getting the chart. So I'll just call this chart, and that is the canvas with the ID of chart. Okay. So of course here, that is what we want to render our bar chart in. I hope that makes sense. And of course, this is not going to work yet because we have to bring in the CDN. Okay. So you grab the CDN, you come down to the bottom of your HTML, and right before the main JS script, that is where I'm going to paste the CDN. And it works. Okay, so just make sure you copy the CDN and then paste it in your HTML right before the main script, and it is going to work, right? But let's go ahead and actually make some adjustments. I'm going to call this, let's say this month. Okay, and I'm going to just remove all these and have the months inside of that. Okay, so we have January, February, November, and then December. Okay, oh come on, December, right? And now we need to have the data to match that. So let's just have some values here. Let's have 1, 4, 2, 4. 602 1695 735 2707 511. So these are basically you know what, I can just call the sales of the month or sales for the month, right? So these are basically the sales for the month. Now the next value 925, we have 1352 1290 725 1434 2346. Okay, so those are the values, and now you can see we have a beautiful bar chart right here. Okay, so I think that is all for the bar chart. Of course, we should see this on bigger screen, and you can see that this actually looks beautiful. Okay, this looks beautiful. All right, so yeah, I'll just leave it like this, and we'll proceed to the pie chart. So let's go back to chart.js, and this time we are going to go to samples right here, and we are going to go to other charts and pie chart. Okay, and so you can go ahead and grab this configuration. I'll just copy the object, and yeah, I think that's it. So let's come back to our JavaScript file, and first of all, let's bring in the element in which we want to render this pie chart. Okay, so I'm going to bring in I'll just call it pie chart. Okay, and that will be document.query selector, and we give that an ID of categories. We give that canvas the ID of categories. All right, so now we have to create a new chart. So a new chart instance, and we bring in the categories, the pie chart element that we are going to render the chart in. And the second argument is going to be the config that we copied from chart.js. Okay, so now you save this, come back, nothing is happening, and that is because we have to have some data for this to actually work. As you can see, we need some data here. Okay, so let's have a data variable here, and it's going to be an object. We need a data set, an array of objects, and we need bar percentage, and that's going to be 0.5. We need bar thickness, and that's going to be 6. We need max bar thickness, and that's going to be 8. We need min bar length, and that's going to be 2. We need data 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Okay, so now we save, and now we can see we have our pie chart. Okay, and of course I'm going to go ahead and remove this text. It should be empty, and yeah, that works. All right, so I think we are basically done with the entire application or the entire website, and the last adjustment that I want to do is to have a little bit more space down here, and also to remove this scroll bar. Okay, so I'll just go right ahead, and I think I had a margin at the top here, so that will be the chart. Let's go up. Okay, and give it a margin, and yeah, now that actually works. I'll refresh, and you can see this actually. Okay, we have to remove the scroll bar, so I'll come all the way to the top here. And WebKit scroll bar, I'll grab that and set the width to be 0. Okay, so that should remove the scroll bar, and now you can see everything is looking amazing. Of course, we have the dark theme as well, so this is how the dark theme looks like. Now before we deploy, I want to add some finishes. I can see some little bugs that I want to correct. As you can see here, the button is not showing. The text in the button is not showing. I want to correct that. And also I actually want to change this icon to a sun icon if we are on the dark theme. And this also I want to align it to the left. That's the th in the table. So let's go ahead and actually work on these real fast. I think I should do the the theme one first. So if you're on dark theme, then the theme button in a HTML should have a sun icon. So let's go ahead and actually, I just searched. I'm going to search a sun icon and then paste that in. So I'm going to use backticks, okay, and then paste that in. So if you are on a dark theme, then we are going to have the sun icon. But if we are on a light theme, then we need the moon icon back. Okay, so I'll copy the moon icon, and theme btn inner HTML should be equal to the moon. Okay, so now if we come back and we get to the dark theme, then we have the sun, but we come to the light theme and then we get the moon icon instead. I hope that makes sense. So let's correct this as well. That's the color for the button in the event. So let's scroll down to the event right here, and we didn't give it a text color. Okay, so the color should be color gray 0. Right, so we save, and of course we should refresh. It should be color gray 900 rather. All right, so there we have it. And now when we go to the dark theme, it actually shows. The other thing we need to change is the alignment for the th in the table. So let's get to the table real quick right here. That's the top products. I'm going to get a th, and we added a padding, and I'm going to left align. So align items, or is it text align rather? I'm going to align it to the left. Okay, so there we have it, and I think that's it, guys. So this is the project we just finished. We have our CSS file, our JavaScript file, our HTML file, and the assets folder. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I'm actually going to make this a zip file. Okay, so right click on the dashboard folder and make it into a zip file. Just compress it. All right, so this is the file that we are going to upload to our Hostinger server, the compressed file. Okay, so go ahead and log into your Hostinger. So use the link in the description to go to Hostinger and go to login, and make sure you buy the hosting, okay, so that you can have that discount and also claim a free domain name. All right, so business web hosting, go ahead and click manage right here, and once you are here, you should have your claimed domain. The domain you claimed should be selected by default here, but I'm using the one I claimed for something else, and so this is what I'm going to deploy this website on. Okay, so go ahead and click file manager. The process is the same, by the way, so just go ahead and click file manager. And let's go into our public underscore HTML file. Let's select everything in here and trash it. And once that is done, we can go ahead and upload our zip file. So this is it. That's the zip file. So I'll just double click that to upload it to our Hostinger H panel here. And now we can go ahead, click this and extract it. Okay, so I'm going to click extract, and I'm going to put a dot here, and that means I'm going to extract it in this current folder, and so I can delete the zip file that we uploaded. Now we can go into our dashboard folder. So now let's go ahead and copy everything inside of the dashboard folder and then move it into the public underscore HTML. Okay, so let's highlight everything and then move. And so we are going to go up to the parent, that is the public underscore HTML. So we are going to click this 2 dots and then move. Okay, so now everything is inside of the public underscore HTML. So now this dashboard folder is actually empty, so we are going to trash it. And now our website is actually live. So if you go ahead, and of course you would actually upload this on your domain, the domain you claimed. But if you go ahead and visit this website, boom, as you can see, we have our beautiful website. Okay, of course I'm actually viewing this on Firefox, that's why we still have the scroll bar. But if I go ahead and actually visit the website on Chrome, boom, you don't have that. Okay, so everything is looking exactly as it should, right? Of course the dark theme is going to look good as well, and everything should be working as it did locally. Okay, so that is it for the entire project. I hope you learned something, and go ahead, use the link in the description to sign up for my newsletter for the upcoming Zero to Hero HTML and CSS course, and I will see you in that course. Thank you.